Hey, welcome to GameLayer, where we explore the science of play and the quest of learning. I am your host, David Kolmer. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Welcome down to GameLayer.
I play piano.
I play chess.
I play everything.
I play games of my own invention.
I'd like to move to the domain of play.
Today I have Bret Wardle on the show. You know, it's really interesting when you have an opportunity to have a public discussion with someone who you perceive as being on another level than you. And Bret definitely falls into that category. I'm incredibly excited. I'm a little bit maybe even fanboy about this opportunity. Bret has done a lot in this space. He has a lot of experience, but he's also just really down to earth, very humble and knowledgeable person. And for me, that's just such a valuable combination to really be great and not maybe know that you're great. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get things started.
I play everything.
Hey, awesome. So we have Bret Wardle on the show. Am I saying your name right, Bret?
Yeah. You can call me whatever you want.
Mr. Wardle, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Anything but Mr. Wardle.
All right, Bret, you want to go ahead and just start off by letting us know what you're most interested in or what you're up to these days?
Yeah, so I'm interested in games in general. Like I love gaming. I worked in video game development for 10 years as a game designer. I worked on franchises like The Sims 3. Really? Did a handful of movie to game conversions with a small studio here in Salt Lake City. Was part of the boom of Facebook gaming, the explosion and crash of Facebook and mobile gaming. And at that point, just kind of started to realize that I needed to spend more time with my wife and kids and moved over to product development. And that's kind of where I found myself cinch, is that sort of niche of, hey, people love and talk about games. And there's this idea that me and you can sit and talk about a 30-year-old video game for hours, but nobody has those. I don't sit down with you at the water cooler and talk about what cool stuff we're doing in Excel or what new features or stuff is in Outlook. And I'm trying to find that convergence of why don't we talk about the products we use the same way we talk about the games we play. And so that's kind of where I found myself is that sort of intersection. And more or less, that's what I'm doing. I build products. I design emergent experiences and experiences that people love to engage with, and in somewhat traditional or non-traditional sort of spaces.
So you're making me think of UX, or what's an example of a product that you're designing?
So UX is actually where I found my way to product. I worked with a game studio, and one of the engineers, after a game studio collapse, one of the engineers had gone to a company called Spillman Technologies that makes software for law enforcement, first responders, 911 centers. And he's like, hey, I know that you're a game designer, but this concept of user experience, UX, is just sort of taking off. I mean, this was 15 years ago when UX was sort of brand new. And he's like, I know it's new, and I know it doesn't, in your head, it might not compute, but these UX people are doing what game designers have been doing for the last 30 years in the form of understanding why users do something. How do they retain information? How do we learn? How do we remember where buttons are? And he's like, I think you could actually kill it at this UX thing. And so I found my way over, and since then that's where I've been. I've gone through UX, found my way to product, but I mean, I've built that. I've built law enforcement software, first responder software. I've built security software for people showing up at stadiums that are getting privileged access to stadiums. I've worked in e-com. I worked for Overstock. I don't know if you're familiar with there, but I was in charge of the homepage
people talk about
at
that
Overstock.
even in St. Louis.
So tons of stuff. And I've just kind of bounced around and do some consulting on the side, and a ton of talking. I've given a TEDx talk on why I think Super Metroid is the greatest digital experience ever created. I just try to bring that to more and more products that I work on.
That's my game. I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but I heard you say that at GameCon, and I was like, okay, I need to talk more to this guy, because if he has any interest in Super Metroid,
if you haven't watched the TEDx talk, you should. It is.
I didn't watch it yet because I don't want to be have fame shock, for how cool you are being on TED.
I am super not cool. I don't know if being a TEDx speaker is a qualifier for being
It
cool.
is in my world, which isn't the coolest world. I wanted to ask if you're aware which Wardle player taxonomy you are.
I probably most identify as an explorer. I'm one of those that like I don't necessarily care about the achievements, and I would say I'm like 75% explorer, 25% socializer. Like I love the social aspect of games, but as soon as something becomes tedious or starts to feel like a grind, I'm out. So if I can walk around and discover new things, I love games like a Fallout, games where there's just like this
I love
open
that
world.
show, by the way, too. Yeah, that show was amazing. The
It's
Fallout
really
show on Amazon.
It's really good.
Turned into a great show.
We are in this like golden age of video game to movie / show conversions that I am just
doing
like
good.
I'm absolutely loving, because when I was young, when I
way
was
better
working,
than the old Mortal Kombat.
when I was
movies or
working
Street
in
Fighter
games,
movies.
yes, we were stuck with Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter movies, like
They're okay, but
like
they're actually pretty terrible.
that original Super Mario Brothers movie. Like,
Yeah, not so much. But the new one with Jack Black, pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Like pretty.
no,
pretty,
like
pretty stellar.
it's solid. Like all of the new stuff has been really good. Like I've been really loving the Last of Us show, the Fallout show, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies are fantastic.
Those are, my kids love those movies.
We are in
Like,
a
they
golden
beg us
age.
to
Yeah,
watch
it is
them.
a golden age. But so going back to Bartles, are you familiar
please.
with the Hexad player type framework?
No, I mean I'm an explorer, so tell me all about it.
I love Bartles, but Bartles, if you're not familiar, anyone listening is not familiar, Bartles is built around MUDs, around multi-user dungeons in like the 70s and 80s.
Sure.
And explicitly, like Bartles or Bartle built this around what players do. Like the whole framework is built around what players do, specifically in multi-user dungeons. So it doesn't capture like a big picture. And the Hexad, what the Hexad does is it's created by a gamification designer named Andrei Marchevsky. And I may be getting that wrong, and the spelling is significantly different than it sounds. But he created it. And I love it because what it does is it takes Bartles and this concept of what players do, and it combines it with the self-determination theory. Like if you're familiar with that at all, but it is it is a like triad of groupings on why humans do stuff, like completely outside of games. It is like why humans build houses, why we get jobs, why we do all this. But it takes this like
motivation,
what we do and how we're motivated, and smashes them together. And it kind of creates this like there's like 6 player types and different motivations. So I use it, like when I consult, I use the Hexad framework, just because I feel like it's a great combination of not only what we do as humans and players, but why we do it, why we're motivated to do it. So
I have absolutely never heard of that. So
you
that's
should,
why
you
I'm
should
here.
totally
That's
check.
why we're having conversations. I can't wait to go check that out.
Yeah, dive into it. So yeah, whenever I consult, like I go to Hexad. Like I really love it, and I encourage people, like whenever I'm building personas and stuff for products, I'll include that Hexad type on there, because it can completely determine what type of game mechanics, what type of KPIs you should be tracking. And it's a really good, robust system. Like I like the way that it's set up. Although Bartles is fantastic. Like that's my one hang up on Bartles.
It's true with even like the ones that we use for corporate America, right?
Yeah.
Everyone kind of has their favorite. They all have a different flavor. They all are maybe geared differently.
Yeah.
And you know, they're repeatable-ish,
yeah.
right?
I mean, it's all gray area, right? Like it's
kind of. We're talking about people here.
Humans love to classify things, right? We love to group things together.
We're not that good at it, but we do like doing it.
We love classifying them, and it's always wrong. And 5 years later, there'll be something different, and 10 years later, we'll look back and go, "Oh, the Briggs-Meyer is completely bogus and not psychologically founded." And
AI proved that it was all wrong.
Yes,
fantastic. So it's really interesting to hear that you're not in the proper learning and development space, and that actually really excites me. I'm really happy to hear that, because I'm trying to break gamification out of the L&D world, because I think it is sort of an L&D word, and you might disagree with me on that, but you seem to be nodding. And I kind of like this idea that it could be more than that. I'd like to hear more of... yeah,
it is.
You're okay. Yeah, so how does it fit into your product design, or how does it fit into sort of the UX work that you do? Or
so
is there anything more you'd like to add there?
I mean, it fits everywhere, right? Like gamification is this blanket, and gamification as a term itself is this like blessing and a curse, right? There's some people that swear to never use it and it's a garbage term, but when it's all said and done, like that is the term we use. There is not another term that other people use. So we're stuck using it. But it is this idea of just, by definition, it is just using game mechanics in non-traditional game setting. L&D like is a great space for it. And I've kind of like wiggled my way into this L&D world because of like Syntatia and USDL, like the US Distance Learning Association has had me talk at their conference, and a few other like Tech Learn put on by Training Mag. But like as a product designer, the way that I fit into gamification, like coming from an game development standpoint, with a video game, the rule is you have 5 minutes. Like you have 5 minutes to capture a player's attention or they're gone. Like, hey, gamers have an even shorter attention span than normal people, if we use that. But there's so many things that they can go to. If I don't like this game, there's 10,000 other games. Products are honestly no different. Like in product design, especially in this day and age, like there is no more, like market saturation is everywhere. There is no longer a, well, I've got to use Microsoft Outlook because it's the only email tool. No, there's 100 email tools. If I don't like your email tool, I will use another email tool. There's 50 of them. Yeah, I can choose from a number of them. So the same things apply. Like I need to be engaging. I need to keep people hooked. And it boils down to like what your KPI is, right? Like if you're familiar with key performance indicators, what are we tracking? Like if our goal is to increase,
what does success look like?
Yeah. If we are trying to increase daily average users, monthly average users, there's different mechanics that we might use than say if we're trying to increase revenue. If we're saying like, hey, we just need to get people to pay for the service, where conversion is the KPI we're looking for. You would use different mechanics. And so that's kind of where I found my space, is this sort of Venn diagram, or I like to refer to it as the Triforce because I'm a gamer, but this Triforce of user types, which is where the hex ad comes into play, KPIs, where it's like, hey, am I tracking monetary KPIs, conversion KPIs, engagement KPIs, and then game mechanics. And you've got to find where those three things meet. What mechanics match the player type that I have and match the KPI that I'm trying to enact change on. And that's kind of where I find myself in product, is I study games. I love games. I've played thousands of games. How can I bring the things that make a game fun, engaging, retain players into the product world so that we can talk about, use, and have the same feelings about the products we use as we do about games? Because we can have these passionate conversations about video games and board games and card games and trading cards and all these things, but nobody sits around and talks about the products we use on a day-to-day basis until, I would say, like probably the last 5 years. You start to have like things like Duolingo and Waze and some of these other products start to work in where you are actually having these engaging, like, hey, what's your Duolingo streak? Hey, what trophy level are you at?
Emotional conversations even. People have love around those apps. Like the first person who told me about Waze, it was in a training class. I was training customer service and credit. This guy was excited. Like,
I love Waze.
Like, yeah, his hair stood up on the back of his head and he was just like on fire. Like, oh, there's this app. They tell you, where the traffic is. So I 100% agree with that. And yeah, it's a new age, right? It's a new vibe.
Super exciting.
Really
like as someone who came from video games to products, like it genuinely excites me to say like, hey, there are things that we can learn from these garbage experiences, at least like from the outside world. Games are they still have that stigma. Like when you talk about video games, people are still like, oh, I don't play games. It's like, you do. Like, I'm pretty sure I can look through your phone and show you that you do. Whether you think you do or not, you do.
Right. Yeah. And we all play games. And with that in mind, I'd like to just openly ask you, especially since you've been a game designer, what are games? How would you define games?
Yeah, so
what causes us to love them, right? Why do we love them so much?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? And there's not I don't know that there's a distinct answer to that. As far as defining them, the definition I use, and that a lot of, at least in the academic world, there's this idea of play versus game, and then you have like granularity of games. But play is the idea of doing anything for enjoyment. Like you don't have a point, you are just doing it for enjoyment. And then to take that a step further, the second you add a rule set, it becomes a game. Like that is the difference between play and game, at least in academia is concerned. So the examples I always like to use is, if I go out in my front yard and me and my daughter throw my frisbee back and forth, that is play. But if we go to the park and play a game of ultimate frisbee, that is a game. We now have a rule set. We are keeping score. We have these things that like you have to adhere by. And so game to me is just structured play. Like it is play in the form you've given play structure, right? Like that is how we define games. And by that definition, like there's all sorts of things that suddenly become a game, which we don't really think of. Like even things like there's the like where you write one sentence and then you pass the paper to someone else and write a sentence. You've now given that play structure. Like that is a game, and you've kind of transcended that. As far as why we love them, like that is the question, right? Like, and I don't know, like there's countless reasons. And I think that's kind of the point, or at least the thing that I take away from it is
well said.
Everyone is different. Like I love games for a different reason than you love games. My daughters and son love games. Like my son is an uber competitive Mario Kart player. Like he loves games for a very different reason than I love games. Like he loves the competition. Like he's like going back to like the Bartles. He's that like, I can forget what the achiever. Yeah. Right? Like whatever it is, like he is the uber competitive. Whereas I'm the like, no, like get your competition out of my games. Like I'm just here to explore and have fun. So everyone loves them for different reasons, but we as humans are intrinsically drawn to them. I mean, they are as old as civilization themselves. Like, and that's the biggest takeaway for me is although we love them for different reasons, we love them. And why we love them, I don't know. I don't know that there's a clear, like, I'm sure someone has philosophies as to what the clear answer is to that. But from my perspective,
I might as well just ask you, what's the meaning of life, right? I might as well just say, like, what's the purpose of not, dying? Or why would we want to continue? So it's a difficult question. I just want to address that. But you kind of just started to inch into another topic that I'd really like to dig in with you, and that's the history of games. Right?
Yes.
You seem to know a lot about, or have researched, or have experience with understanding where did games come from, or what's the history of games. So anything you'd like to share on that?
I mean, I love this topic, and I've given a handful of talks about this. And I mean, ultimately, like I could just say like, well, how much time do we have? Because this could literally go on for hours. But I mean,
well, I have all day.
In short, like I said, games are as old as civilization. They've unearthed, one of my favorite little facts is in Kenya, they've unearthed this. I mean, I don't know if it's unearthed because it's like surface level, but dug into rocks, they have found this like ancient arcade where multiple Mancala boards have been dug out. And civilizations in Kenya would gather around together and play Mancala as a group. So it's almost like the chessboards in Central Park, except these Mancala boards. And this dates back to like roughly 6,000 BC. So I mean, we're talking at this point like 8,000 years ago is when we're dating. And that's kind of cited as like the first like instance of like group gaming. And I mean, you get into things like the Royal Game of Ur is kind of cited as like the first board game sort of. But I mean, even the building blocks, even the current building blocks that we use as game designers in like dice, cards, tokens. I mean, these are all thousands of years old. I mean, dice were carved into sheep's bones and used thousands of years ago. So we've been, as a civilization, playing games for thousands of years. And I think we discount that sometimes. I think we think of games as like, well, Monopoly was like, what, 1937 or something. Like, no, we're talking way older than that. And even
older than capitalism even.
Yes.
Maybe, right?
Like even computer games. Like the other thing that I love is we create these mainframe computers. You have like EDSAC, EDVAC. Within a decade of creating these mainframe computers, we made video games for them. Like we made video games for computers before we started making like modern personal computer software, like in the form of OXO, Space War, Tennis for Two. Like these are being played on these mainframe computers on like oscilloscope screens. Like the second we got
the same as Pong, the Tennis for Two.
Tennis for Two is
that different?
It's incredibly similar. The difference is
it sounds similar.
It plays a little more like tennis. You could look it up, but it has a ball that it goes over a net. Like it uses physics to kind of bounce over a net. And I mean, Space War, I don't know if you're familiar with Space War.
I'm going to check that out too.
But it's a 2-player game. that used like legit physics. Like it was a PvP spaceship, almost like an asteroids, but it's two ships trying to shoot each other, but they are slowly being pulled into a black hole. And it used like real physics simulations, which is great. Like within a decade of creating computers, we're already doing this. We didn't go and figure out like, oh, well, how can we build better software? No, like people started screwing around with games.
We didn't invent Excel.
Yes. And I mean, continuing that, games are now, as an entertainment industry, games are larger than movies, music, and books combined. Like you can take all of those,
blew my mind.
And the game industry is larger than that. So to say that, like when people are like, oh, I don't play games, or games are child's toys, or they're not. Like it's a $200 billion industry and growing exponentially. So, I mean, from that standpoint, like games, the history of games has a ton of knowledge to be kind of taken from it. And in one of the lectures that I've given, I have a handful of points that I kind of talk to, but I mean, taking a couple of them, like three of the ones that I love are know your user or player. Like if you go and study games, I'm an advocate. Like one of the things that I always end my discussions with is, as designers, as L&D experts, we need to be playing more games. I'm kind of dumbfounded by how often I talk to people. I'm like, they'll talk about a mechanic or something, and I'll be like, oh, have you played The Last of Us? Like it uses that mechanic really well. And they're like, oh, I don't play games. Like I'm just an L&D designer. I'm like, how can you say that you're like into gamification and not play games? But knowing your player is huge, because we can't design for a player without knowing them. And so knowing that player is one of the key takeaways. That, like, if you look at like Grand Theft Auto versus Bejeweled, wildly different games and appeal
different audience,
wildly different audiences. I can't sit a Grand Theft Auto player down with Bejeweled and say, hey, enjoy this.
Enjoy the game.
I can't sit a Bejeweled player down with Grand Theft Auto and say,
probably not.
Hey, like this should be fun, right? And it brings up this idea, like you really do, not only do you need to know your player and know what works for them, but play test. Like we can't say it enough. Get iteration 1, try it. Get iteration 2, try it again. Iteration 3, try it again. And just take feedback, make changes, and just keep that cycle up. It's that iterative process.
Yeah, I'm working on a project right now of gamification, and that's just, I presented it to the SMEs, and they're like, well, let's go get some people playing this and see what happens.
Yeah,
right.
You have to.
That's the
right?
perfect response. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, you can't.
What is this missing?
Yeah,
like,
you don't, and you don't know. Like we can sit like as much as
you don't know.
As much as me as a product designer wish that I was making products for myself.
You're not.
I have very rarely been in charge of a product that I am the end user. Like when I was designing stuff for cops and firemen, I'm not a cop or a fireman. I'm far from it. So I have to go and do ride-alongs. I have to go and talk to them. I have to interview them. I have to put myself in their shoes. And as any designer, you have to do that. If you're building a gamified experience, you have to understand those people that are using it.
Yeah, and you're making me think of a lot of different things with that, right? Thinking of my background, I have a background in theater, and that always kind of seems to come up in these conversations. And it's just knowing your audience, right?
Absolutely.
You're not going to want to do some pagan ritual at a church. You know, it's just not going to play well.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to know the people. And that's
read the room.
Comes down to read the room. Yeah, I've been a training facilitator as well. You have to know the people you're talking to, and if it's not working, you got to change it up. Right?
Absolutely. It's like a stand-up. You get your time on stage. Like you've got to start adjusting your jokes, like as you're reading that room, and the product design process is no different. So the other one that I love is quality over quantity, and this comes up a lot. The example I use a lot is the game crash. Like I don't know if you're familiar with like the video game crash of the early 80s, but the Atari 2600 just blew up the market and then just started pumping out absolute garbage.
Every Kellogg's box had a terrible game in it, right?
Yes.
And there was this oversaturation of video games because
and
quality went way low.
Yeah, people they distrusted what they were getting.
I've heard a lot about that.
Like between E.T., like a lot of people cite E.T. as like the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing.
Was it that bad?
It's bad, but I honestly, like, I usually will cite the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man. I think was just as bad because
Really?
people
was
had
not
something
familiar.
to compare it to. People
Okay.
had played
Sure.
Pac-Man in the arcade, and they
Okay.
saw what Pac-Man could be, how it played, how it worked. If you fire up the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man, is like to say that it's like Fisher Price My First Pac-Man is an understatement. Like, it is trash. It does not play like the arcade. It does not look like the arcade. The ghosts are completely random. They're all the same color. Like, everything is garbage in that game. And
I don't think
so
I've played
as
that
bad
version.
as ET was, like, it had a huge marketing effort and didn't
Sure.
live up to expectations. But Pac-Man was a
Okay.
direct, like, no, we know what Pac-Man should be as users,
Right.
and you did not
Right.
pull it off. And so that distrust came from that. And what ultimately pulled the industry out of that crash was Nintendo, and specifically Nintendo's seal of approval. Like, I don't know if you're familiar, Nintendo had the little, like, golden
The
seal
that little seal,
that
for sure.
everything,
Yeah.
and a lot of people cite Nintendo as like over controlling, and you had to buy your cartridges from them and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. But ultimately, like, that stranglehold on quality is the only thing that brought us out of that crash.
I love Nintendo games. I always have.
Now, I've always been a Nintendo fanboy, but
I love Nintendo.
like, that is why. Like,
'Cause
they
there is just such a sense of quality. Like, when
Yes.
Mario 3 came out, I couldn't contain myself. For that Easter, I was so excited.
you know
I
it's going
might
to be
get
solid.
that.
Like, if it is a Nintendo
Yeah,
game,
you know
it
it's
will
gonna
be
blow
solid.
your mind.
Yeah.
You just know it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean that, and
Yeah.
you've seen this repeated. Like, when Facebook and mobile gaming started to take their ramp, just got saturated. Market gets saturated, market crashes. And you kind of have to build yourself back out of that. The Wii is another great example. Like, this is where Nintendo kind of screwed it up. Like, they started to just allow shovelware because they wanted cons. But there are so many motion control games on the Wii that are just trash because the quality wasn't there. They went for quantity over quality, and it hurts. I cannot think of an example in history where quantity trumped quality. Like, it just doesn't always err on the side of quality.
Yeah.
And then
Especially for that sort of experience you're looking for, right? You
For sure.
really want to err on the side of quality. Yeah. Yeah.
don't rush something at the sake of quality, or don't
Right.
add 50 mechanics as opposed to one good mechanic. Like, that's the
One that fits.
that's the real example I like to use is, hey, if you're thinking about a gamification strategy, think about it from that standpoint. Add one mechanic at a time. Don't add a whole bunch of stuff and then not be able to track your data and know what worked and what didn't. Start with one thing and do it well. And if it works, then layer on another thing and try and see if that works.
Yeah. I like that approach. That's interesting because I think it can get a little bit overwhelming because there are so many game mechanics.
Yeah.
So when you read through a list, it's like, where do I start on that?
Yeah, if you start screwing with a bunch of variables, like, how do you know what worked and didn't? Like, right? Like, as a product designer, like, I rely on data. Like, I can't know if I've changed a KPI. Well, I can know if a KPI changes, but I cannot point that change to any one variable if I have 20 variables going on. Like, I can take guesses. Like, I can start making wild assumptions and say, like, hey, based on my knowledge of this mechanic, I think this is what did it. I don't know. Like, I really need that one-to-one relationship of, like, hey, I know that this A/B test affected that mechanic, and if not otherwise, like, it wasn't one of these other ones. It's important. Like, it's important for data clarity and data quantification to be able to do that and associate that data properly.
Awesome. So you've talked about two of the things I think that you love around this topic. Is there anything else or another topic that you'd like to work into?
I mean, I don't think so. Like, I love applying those, like, historical lessons. Just because I think there are, like, as a ex game designer, as someone who's been playing games since I was a little kid, I just think there's so much knowledge in that industry to be garnered. I think a lot of times we, as gamified experience designers, we don't tap into that enough. And even outside of that, even as game designers, one of the other things that I've kind of tried to do in my professional career a little bit is share just knowledge of game design, because when I was a kid, like, I wanted to make games, but there was nowhere for me to learn what that meant. Like, and even today, like, when I tell people that I'm a game designer or I build games, they're like, oh, so you, like, write the code. No, I'm not an engineer. Oh, so you like do the like art. You're like a designer that does the art. No, I'm not that either. Like I make things fun. And people just don't understand what game design means and what gamification design means. And so I try to share those kind of lessons. Like what is a game mechanic? What mechanics are part of what games? And if I'm trying to build a certain mechanic, what games can I go reference and play and try to understand? And so I've tried to share that data as well and say like, hey, if we're studying games, not all of us can sit down and play the 20 hours that is The Last of Us or whatever game. So I've tried to kind of build these experiences where like, hey, let's break down this game so that if you have an hour, you can get the rundown of what Last of Us is about, what mechanics it uses, what's good, what's bad, how can we apply that to things. And so that's kind of what I've started doing more and more recently is as I've talked to people and not only understood that us as designers aren't playing games, but for the most part, we don't have the time to play some of these games. Like I don't have the time to go.
I don't.
And do these 20-hour games as research. So I've gone ahead and like taken the fall for all of us and played through Last of Us and built videos on why The Last of Us is good. But that's kind of what I've been trying to do more recently is how do we break down game mechanics? How can we understand what worked well, what didn't work well, and put that out there for not only gamification designers, but aspiring young game designers too. Like as a game industry, I want to push the game industry forward too. Like it's becoming more and more indie, and I want these indie projects to succeed. I want to play more of the Celestes and Stardew Valleys and Balatros and like all of these indie 1 and 2 person games. I want them to succeed. I want to find great mechanics in indie titles. And as a youngster growing up wanting to be a game designer, I didn't have that when I was young. And so I try to provide that to students and that kind of stuff as well, so that we can better just understand why, going back to the why people love games, like just trying to understand that more and more.
Yeah, I like some of the smaller titles too. My brother had a PlayStation 3 and ended up with that. And I don't know if you would consider this indie, but I started playing Pixel Junk a lot. There's a Pixel Junk shooter. I think it's my favorite game. And it's not complicated. It has like basic flash animations, but you can get like a magma gun and an ice gun. It's just really fun to play.
Some of those little indie games are fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, I think we bought it for like $10. You know, and it's just a download. You don't even get a disc. But I've probably played that game more than anything in the last 10 years, just because I only have like 10 or 15 minutes. What am I going to do?
Yep.
I don't have time to get into a Zelda mission or this
single serving games.
EverQuest. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Slay the Spire. Have you played Slay the Spire?
No, but I'm gonna check it out.
Like it's another like, hey, I only have like 30 minutes. I'm gonna do a run up the tower of Slay the Spire. It's the like the roguelike genre where it's procedurally generated. Like a playthrough doesn't last very long, and it's different every time you play through, kind of concept. But
well, that sounds fun. Yeah. So you kind of mentioned that you got into game design and then there was really no way to learn about that. I'd like to hear a little bit more about what that process was like, or how did you learn on this track where there really wasn't a track? Maybe? Yeah.
So, I mean, when I was young, there wasn't a track. Like I would read Nintendo Power, and in the back of Nintendo Power, there were like the addresses for Konami and Capcom, and I don't know why they put them there, but I would like write out these game design ideas and just ship them off to them. Really? And just be like, hey, I have a game idea. And you never heard back. Like maybe they'd email you, like they wouldn't email you. This is way before email. They would mail you back a letter that just says like, we got your letter, cool, and send you a sticker. And it was like, okay, well, I don't know what happened to that, but
rejection letters.
Yeah, I would do that. And
10-year-olds.
I mean, even going through high school, like I think I had 2 computer classes that I was able to take.
You always have done this. You just loved this.
I have loved games. I started like back on DOS. Like I had a golf game on DOS on the first personal computer I bought that you could, in a text editor, build golf courses. And I would sit and do that. I would sit and be like, okay, the G is green, the F is fairway, and you would literally in a text file build this golf course that you would play a DOS golf game, and that slowly graduated to like modding Duke Nukem and Doom levels and just slowly progressed. But even in high school, there was nothing. Like at my age, I mean, I'm older than I look, But at my age, there were no computer classes in high school. There was one graphic design class and like one like computer for business. There was no coding. There was no coding class that I could take. And so I had nothing. And even when I started, like I went to college for a little bit out of high school, and within a semester, I was like, there is nothing for me here. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't care about these other courses. I'm going to spend 3 years learning generals that I don't care about. And so I ended up like leaving college and went back like 5 years later once they had game design programs. And I was kind of one of the first cohorts of college graduates to graduate. My degree is in digital entertainment and game design. Like I have a bachelor's of computer science in digital entertainment. And that was in 2008 is when I graduated. I graduated high school in 99. So I had a super gap year, as I like to call it, until honestly the industry caught up with what I wanted to do. Like I had nothing for that time. And
what university was that at? Or what area?
So this was
at
at
Salt Lake City?
This was in Salt Lake City. This was actually at ITT, which is now completely defunct. But back then, your choices literally were like Full Sail University down in Florida, which like I couldn't afford to go to Florida for college.
Sure.
ITT had locations all over, and they were a tech school, and specifically, they touted like, hey, you don't have to spend a ton. You do the bare minimum of generals, and it's very project-based learning, which I was good at anyway. I hated lecture and that kind of stuff. Like I wanted to make stuff, and so it honestly was perfect for me.
Good.
They ended up like failing because it was crazy expensive and the job market was garbage. But I mean, it did help me land my first job ultimately in games. And what probably landed me that job is on the side, I was going to school, I was learning this stuff, but then I was writing for a site it was called Gama Sutra, which is now, I'm pretty sure it's defunct, but it was just a game news and design site. And so I was writing little articles on the side just to try to get noticed. And I wrote an article on movie to game conversions because back in the day, these were bad. I mean, they're still kind of bad, but this idea of like, how can these be good? Like what design elements can we use to make these movie to game conversions good? And I went and interviewed at a studio that was at the time building pretty much movie to game conversions, a small little indie studio that was taking contracts from publishers to build like an Alvin and the Chipmunks game. I specifically was on I don't know if you're familiar with the Tale of Despero franchise, but it's a book that became a movie that became the game. And I was hired for that game. And I honestly think that article is what got me hired. And getting into the industry is the hardest part. And I think that article is honestly what did it for me. And from there, I worked in games. I worked on that, and that studio went down. And so I went and worked at a studio that was just starting in the Facebook gaming realm. And I built a game that was kind of built on, you would go and find your real life ancestors. This was called Family Village, where it kind of hooked into like an ancestry.com back end, where you would go and discover your real life ancestors. And by discovering them and seeing that they're in your family tree, it would pull them into your game. And other than that, it kind of had some like Farmville mechanics where like you could like have them work on a farm and you would build crops. And it was Facebook gaming at the time. But from there, I went to EA and worked on the Sims 3 franchise and just kind of bounced all over the place. But I mean, that was my path. I would say a pretty non-traditional collegiate path, but I mean, that's where I am now. And I've now kind of found my way into UX, into product design, into product management. And that's kind of where I stand now.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the Facebook games, right? Because I think recently I actually started playing games on LinkedIn of all places. They have like these brain games that I'm doing that I'm really actually liking quite a bit. You really feel like you're kind of sharpening your mind a little.
Oh, you are.
You know, word puzzles, things like that.
They are. They're building your brain.
Probably are.
It's elasticity, right? It's brain elasticity. Using parts of your brain that you wouldn't normally use in day-to-day life. When you're reading emails, when you're sitting in meetings, you're not using that nonlinear brain.
Right.
So if you're not like, I get a lot of that from playing what would be considered more traditional games, but I still hop in and play those LinkedIn games. They're still fun. Like they have game elements. They're exciting, like the challenge, the like socialization of like, hey, I did better than you today. There's fun in that, right?
Yeah. How long can I keep the streak going?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it is an interesting, like, that you see Facebook, the rise and fall of Facebook games, and
Yeah.
LinkedIn as traditional is like 10 years behind everything. And they're like, hey, what if we did games? What if we made this more like a social network instead of a networking site? Like they're honestly just, they're like 10 years behind everything, but sometimes that's good because
you're right.
those other ones have kind of come and gone. I mean, Facebook has obviously evolved.
Well, fantastic. I also wanted to ask, just similar to the Wardle taxonomy, what sort of animal do you identify with the most? Or what's your favorite animal?
So, identify with, I don't know. And I'm a bit of a favorite animal free agent right now because what was my long time favorite animal? I actually discovered that the reason I loved it is the myth and it's not founded to be true.
Well, tell me about that.
So
let's talk about the history of your love for animal.
Always loved, whenever someone asked what my favorite animal was, I would tell them my favorite animal is a jaguar because I had heard that jaguars were the only animal to habitually hunt man for sport, not for food, which was intriguing to me that like there's this one animal on earth that's like, nope, I'm going to bite back. Like, I'm sick of you cutting down my forests. I'm sick of you invading my space. Like, I'm going to kill you and leave your body behind because that's just fantastic to me that animals would fight back at us. But I guess it's like that statement is fairly unfounded. They found like they will hunt humans sometimes if you're invading on their space. They're generally like pretty shy creatures, but they will use the human for food as opposed to just like killing them for sport. So the reason that I loved them has kind of been found to be untrue, but I still love them. They're still beautiful creatures. So that's probably one. Like, are you familiar with the patoo, or like some people call it the ghost bird?
I'm not. The ghost bird or the patoo?
Yeah, this is like bird. I think it's like, I want to say it's like Central and South America. I could be completely, I'm not a biology major by any means, but
you're fine.
It is this freaky looking bird that has a cry. They're almost like an owl. They're like a nocturnal bird. I don't know if they're in the owl family, but they have this call that is like haunting. Like it is this like bone chilling like call. And so they're like referred to as like the ghost bird, but they are just like crazy looking birds, like Potoo is there.
We are going to find an open source recording of this sound and it's going to play right now. Because that's going to be cool.
It is freaky. They have this freaky call. So I don't like between those two, like I think those are probably like some of my favorite.
Those are good choices. Yeah. Because so far I've noticed a lot of people are going to go with cat or dog. Right. And so I'm thinking I should add that caveat other than cat and dog. I mean, I don't
I'm
know
a huge dog. I'm at like I
like dogs.
She left. I was going to say
dags.
My
like
golden,
dags.
I have a golden right here, like laying right beside me.
Aww.
I have another, like I have a black lab Great Dane mix upstairs. Like so I love dogs. We have a cat too. Like we're a big animal. Like we have ferrets. We had chickens for a while. Like we're a pretty big animal family. So
yeah, that's fantastic. That's good. So we've talked about a lot of games, and you've talked about, I love the history of games that you've talked about, especially the Mancala. That's just really interesting that it's gone back that far.
Crazy.
But if you had to narrow it down, could you peg down your favorite game, or maybe just your favorite type of game?
So I'm going to
caveat. You've said, I play everything, right? We have a recording of you in the show saying that already.
Oh, I do.
So this is going to be a hard question, I think, for you.
I do try to play everything, including stuff that I wouldn't, like, it's research, right? Like, I can't, if all I'm doing is studying the games that I like to play, then I'm leaving these giant gaps of research.
Sure.
So, I mean, to say favorite game is like a near impossible question for at least someone like me. Like, I don't know who else can maybe have something, but so I'll caveat it. I have a few ways to break this down. So I'll give a couple of answers.
Sounds good. I like
if you were to say, what is the one game that if I could experience it again for the first time, I would say Baldur's Gate. Like the original Baldur's Gate game would classify that. Like that game captured me as a like 16, 17-year-old. I don't know that any other game has done that. Has it hold up through time to be considered my favorite game? I don't know. If you were to say, what is one game that I would recommend everyone play? It would probably be Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I think everyone should sit down at a table and play and it doesn't even necessarily, I side with D&D because that's what I grew up on, but just any tabletop role-playing game. I think everyone should experience that for once. If you were to ask me, what is the most like artistic and deep, like if you were to like classify games as works of art, I don't know if you've ever played Outer Wilds, and this might be my recency bias talking. But I recently played Outer Wilds, and it was actually recommended to me. So I do YouTube videos, and I allow people to donate to the Extra Life Foundation and choose what game I play. And my friend Dylan sponsored this game, and it is unlike anything I had ever played. And it is this like, it's not very long, but it is truly like a piece of storytelling art that just... It's beautiful. It's a beautiful game. If you ask me single game versus franchise, like my favorite franchise is The Legend of Zelda, but I don't know that I could pinpoint any one of those that I would say, hey, this is the game.
For me, it was Ocarina of Time. I'll just say, because I just liked that one. Maybe it was just the time of my life that it came out.
I had always been
the one that I had too.
Yeah. That plays a huge part of it, right? Like I never had a GameCube, so Wind Waker was this like gap until it released on the Wii U is the remake. I had never played Wind Waker, but I've always been a like Majora's Mask over Ocarina of Time stan, just because I think its game design is more interesting. Like Ocarina of Time is like, it's a little too, like, I hate to use the word basic, but like I love the time loop design in Majora's Mask.
Yeah. I didn't play that one as much. We had it, but that's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I love that game. If you were to ask me what the greatest designed game of all time is, that's where Super Metroid, I think, comes into play. Like, I think it is probably the most well-designed game of all time. And that's why I chose it, like, as the TEDx talk. But if you were to ask me, like, if we say, like, what is your favorite game? The way that I would probably define it is, if I could only play one game ever for the rest of my life, what would it be?
That's a good question.
And I would say the answer to that one is probably Minecraft, which I'm fairly recent to. Like, I only started playing Minecraft during the COVID lockdown, but it has become this game that if I ever have downtime, if I have a couple of minutes or I'm bored or I want to do something social with my family, like if you were to say if there was only one game I could play for the rest of my life, what would it be? Minecraft would probably be my answer. So to say like, what is your favorite game? It's probably that, just because of that stipulation, because of the like, my favorite game I would classify as like the one game that I would play if I could only play one ever. And I would say that would be it.
And that might be a better version of that question, because it would actually be my answer as well. My son is obsessed with Minecraft, but then so is his younger sister, right? And it's something that we can all do together. We can all contribute to it.
Everything for everyone. Like, it literally has something for when we going back to the, like, find your player type and understand what they want to do. No other game has the breadth of player types that Minecraft covers.
Yeah,
like,
it just
literally everyone.
It hits all the boxes. You're right. And I think my son had a really good critique of it, and I'll bring it up here. Why the Bedrock and the Java split on Minecraft? Because that's a thing for us, right? We have an iPad, we have a Mac, we have a PC, and it's really difficult for our family to all come together and play Minecraft because it's who has what version, right? And what platform.
We're a Bedrock family.
That's cool. So you it's like having a Google family, right? It's like
Yeah, but that's because we have, like, I primarily play on consoles. Like, I don't play a ton on PC.
Okay.
And we have, like, my daughters play on phones. And so Java is, I mean, I don't know, but Java is, like, primarily PC only, right?
I'm going to get this wrong now. I think so. We have a MacBook that we have Minecraft on, and it's running the Java.
Okay.
But then the iPad does Bedrock, so it almost doesn't make sense.
So mobile devices, I think, have to be Bedrock. Mobile devices and consoles I believe, are Bedrock only. And then
Okay.
personal computers, be it Mac or PC, like Windows, can run both, can run either. But
Right.
we're primarily not a PC gaming family. Like we're console and mobile.
Okay.
So we're all Bedrock.
That's awesome. We need to move towards that. I think we have a better family life if we could all just.
But some of the mods, like that's the thing about Java is like the mods that you can do in
Mods
Java.
always come up. Yeah.
Like I haven't played because I haven't played Java, but I have seen some mods that are like, okay, this might be worth me installing Java just to try this out because there are some incredible, and I love the modding community. Like that's one of the reasons why I think
Really
Minecraft falls into
Yeah.
that. Like what is my favorite game concept is the modding community. Like you have a
100%.
literally gigantic modding
gosh.
community in that game.
Yeah, that's like an understatement, right? And then just the YouTube shows around modding Minecraft. It's
Minecraft
my kids
made YouTube. Like
My
I
gosh.
legitimately think like
my gosh. My
Minecraft
kids love
videos
that.
like exploded YouTube.
If I say you cannot watch Mikey and JJ today, my kids lose their marbles. Like they're so mad.
I love it. I mean, you look at like some of the
Kind of hold that sword over them, right? Okay, the weekend's coming. You know, if
the
you're
biggest
good.
YouTube stars. Like, I mean, Mr. Beast started with Minecraft videos. Like,
I'm not surprised.
like,
Yeah, and now
this
he's
is where it started.
dropping Lamborghinis into a grinder just because he can.
Yes.
You know, lucky guy.
Well, it's a fantastic game. Like, it literally has something for everyone.
Yeah, and have you seen some of the music videos that they've done where they have like they jump from block to block and it's all in sync? It's absolutely blows my
Crazy.
mind.
Like it's just you can do anything. Like you
beautiful.
can make movies, you can make music videos, you can tell stories, you can explore, you have action, you like it's a work of art. Like it really is.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting because when it came out, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I saw it and I was like, it's like a bad rendering of like Doom or something. It's like,
I mean,
these huge
I didn't
blocks.
play it
Like,
for
what?
almost 10 years because I was like,
Same.
no, I don't think it
I
appeals
can't
to
get into
me.
that.
Like I don't,
Right.
and I just didn't know. And part of it was like when it first came out, it obviously wasn't what it is now. And so when it first came out, like
That's
what
true.
it was back then was kind of like, yeah, I just don't know that this is for me. But then as they've added and they've created new and they have these releases and the world has grown and it has changed.
It's true. Yeah.
Now it's a completely different game than it was in 2011, I think is when it released. So to say that like when it came out, it didn't capture my attention, that's not, I mean, not to like save myself here, but like, that's not completely on me. Like it was a very different game 10 years ago than it is now.
Well, I think we both kind of pointed out it changes a little bit when you have kids too.
For sure.
Because I'm always looking out for like the collaborative games or the co-op games.
Yes.
Because I don't want my kids to just sit around playing Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
It's not the life I want for them.
I love, I
love
mean,
the social aspect for my kids.
Yeah,
around
my
it.
love for couch co-op goes back to like the old school, like playing like TMNT arcade and like all of these like couch co-op games that like Minecraft scratches that itch for me where we can like we are like we're literally down in this room and we'll have 6 of us on our realm like playing live and we don't need to be on headsets. We can just like, hey, can someone bring me wood? Can someone, hey, does anyone have an extra axe that I can borrow? I need to go get some wood, but I don't want to craft an axe, blah, blah, blah. Like being able to sit together and talk and play together and be in this lived in world is there's an experience to it. And as I look back, like there's a part of me, like we actually just did this like last weekend. We had like 6 of us playing Minecraft and like I kind of took that like step back and I'm like, what would, like, if I were my daughter's age, like, what would I think of this back then? Because we didn't have this. When I was 10, 12, I did not have these. Like, we couldn't sit around on our own devices playing a game in a lived-in online, like, the internet didn't even exist. I mean, it did, but, like, not to the average person.
Right.
And it just blows my mind sometimes how far technology has come. And
yeah,
the fact that games are leading that charge. Again, we go back to the like, it doesn't take us long to like build new technology and go, well, how can we make a game out of it? And that is what we do as humans.
So it's something for my family to aspire to. I think I've already shared, right? We need to get our act together around that. My kids are pretty young still, but it would really enrich our family life, I think, having more of that social Minecrafting together. So something to look forward to.
It's fun. There's tons of games that are great for that. And even single, like my younger ones, they've started to get a little too old for this, but they used to love to just watch me play. Like when they were still like in learning to read age, like they would watch me play Breath of the Wild because they hadn't learned to read that level of text yet. And so I would read it aloud and they would watch me play Breath of the Wild and just be enthralled with like watching this experience. Like they didn't need to play, like watching me play was enthralling to them. And it's incredible how that can slowly morph to where they're playing their own games and we're finding these new couch co-op experiences. And there's a ton of them. Like I have a handful for you. Like once your kids get a little bit older, like I have a few more that would be fun. Like Castle Crashers is one of our
right?
go-tos.
When they're older, I'll have you back on the show again. You can share that list. Right?
Do it. Yeah,
I'm actually playing through Ocarina of Time now.
Really?
I'm doing it with my son, and it's taken us like 3 years, right? Because there's never the time. But he really prefers it when I play, and he can play. He's a good player, but when I get in there, I grind it out because I've played that game several times throughout my life, right? I know it backwards.
Yeah.
So it's something we do together. I kind of wanted to talk more about, and I'm just one of the prepared questions is, so looking at Minecraft, since you essentially fell on that as your favorite game or the game that you would play if there's nothing else, what are the game mechanics in there you think that really draw you in?
Yeah. So to me, there's 3, and these are like, all 3 of these are a little bit broad.
Okay.
But the first one is exploration. Like it has this sense of like it is infinite exploration. Like
it is.
Almost quite literally, because things are procedurally generated. Like the world has limits, but there's no limit to the number of worlds. If I reach the world limit, unbeknownst, like I've never even thought about going the 1,000,000 blocks out. But if I reach a world limit, I can just generate a new world and have another 1,000,000 blocks. Like, and there's this infinite exploration. And as I explore, things are procedurally generated for me. And that exploration is just fun. Like being able to just say like, I'm hopping on a horse and I am going, is that mechanic is, for me, incredibly exciting, just because I grew up in this like left to right, like platformer game.
Super Mario,
like there is no like open world. So open worlds to me are fun. And even like what we consider open world games, like we talked about like Fallout and some of these that are considered open world, like Breath of the Wild is an open world game. Well, I've explored the entire map in Breath of the Wild and it didn't take me that long. Minecraft, I couldn't even wrap my head around exploring the entire map. And so that to me is like one of its like the exploration aspect is just so fun. I don't know what is around the next chunk or block or whatever they call it. Like I literally don't know. Like it is being generated as I move and there's something incredibly fun to that.
That's awesome.
The other one is like action. The idea of action and combat. I love the way that they differ it. I love, it's not just like if you play like your classic beat 'em up, it's like punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick. Like the skeletons have ranged weapons, the creepers explode, the zombies are just straight up melee. And then you get to like the bosses, like, oh, the Ender Dragon's in the air, the Wither can fly around and blow stuff up. And like they vary their action incredibly well. Like it's not just this classic, like I get my sword and I've just got to hit things till they die. And you have to play with these different levels of action. And one of my favorites of that is like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Warden, but the Warden is this like unique gameplay
Who wouldn't
element.
be familiar with the Warden? I mean, just kidding.
But it's this idea that most of the enemies, like the enemies or the bosses, you defeat them and the loot that they drop is like the reason for the adventure, right? Well, the Ender Dragon drops the dragon egg and the Wither drops the Nether Star that you can make a beacon with. The Warden doesn't drop anything. And it's probably the hardest boss in the game. But the idea is like the loot is in the ancient city. Like the gameplay is exploring that ancient city in hopes to not summon the warden. The goal is to never see the warden as a boss. Like, you don't spawn the warden in order to fight him. Like the Ender Dragon, you seek out the Ender Dragon. You literally craft the Wither. But the warden is like, we don't talk about the warden. It's this like unique
My
gameplay
kids are
element.
afraid of the warden. Yeah.
They should be, right? Like, it's terrifying. But it's this idea that, like, as a gameplay element, the idea is not to see the boss, which, like, from a game design standpoint is crazy. Like,
It's clever though.
yes,
It's an interesting
like
change.
100%.
Yeah,
like,
that's cool.
You're used to, like, I fight the level and I beat the boss at the end.
Hit to Bowser. Yeah.
The ancient city, the treasure is in the biome, and your goal is to never see the boss, which just another way that they're like doing this weird layering and change up of the action in that game. That's just fun. Like, it's just a completely different gameplay element than you're used to. And I love the way that they change action. Like, action doesn't have to be fighting. Action can be sneaking. Like, the sneak is an action that I take as a player. And that's incredibly fun to me.
Or the defense, right? A lot of people, a lot of the Mikey and JJ episodes are, we're going to build a defense wall. And this time we're going to have like flaming arrows. And this time there's going to be a pit. And right? There's always like that secret base element. And I for one, really like that because I'm interested in kind of the house design. And now I'm just kind of inserting my own love of it. But my favorite thing about Minecraft is getting up on a cliff and building some weird modernist house, you know, that has a waterfall like coming out of a mountain. Like, that's so fun for me.
Yeah, it is. It's
never
literally
really played
everything,
the game.
everyone.
I just do creative mode all the time. That's
We love, like, we build. There's something fun. So our realm, it's a survival realm, but I've almost walled off this village. We found a village, and we've lit it up enough that, like, my kids and wife can live in this village without, like, if they venture outside of the village, like, it's fair game. But
it's odd.
Within the village, it is more or less creative because we've lit it up enough that there's not spawns. And, like, my wife built a roller coaster. Like, we've built a pirate ship.
We've done that.
We have all kinds of, like, it's just fantastic. Like, it really is everything for everyone.
So you mentioned 2, I think, if I'm counting right. The second one was the action. And the third one, you said there's 3.
The third is the way that the game ramps. Because ramping is one of these important game design elements where you go from 0 to 60. And the way that you do that, the way as a game designer you go from 0 to 60 is incredibly important. Okay. Because you can't just, it's really hard, especially when you're designing for kids, which Minecraft definitely has that, like, firmly in its demographic.
It sure is.
Have to be slow. And the way that they layer their ramping is just like an absolute, like, it is a chef's kiss because anyone can jump into it. The children, the elderly, like, it doesn't take a large, like, you can start with creative. Like, you don't have to go and start a survivor war. Start with creative and learn to build, learn to craft, then maybe move to, like, a peaceful survival. And like, you have the ramping of the worlds. Then you have the ramping of the crafting. Like, okay, well, I've got to go gather wood, and with wood I can build a crafting table, and then that crafting table ramps up where I can build bigger stuff, and I can start to craft these,
into, like, survival mode, right?
Yeah,
because you're gonna have to craft things,
and it's just like, and then you start to, like, you craft things, and then you use the things you've crafted to craft new things, and then use those things to craft like, and it just becomes this, like, you can slowly work your way through from beginner to expert, and there's something for everyone. Like, kids can enjoy it with I would argue 0 barrier to entry. There is no barrier to entry for Minecraft. And expert players, like, you still have, like, the YouTube streamers and all of these expert players, like, they could play this game in their sleep. Like, if you watch, like, the PvP server videos, like, some of the things they're throwing cobwebs to trap the other players, and they're vaulting themselves up in the air. They're doing this stuff that's, like, incredibly expert move sets. Yeah, the game is as fun for them as it is for the 5-year-old that is first entering a creative world and knows nothing about the game. And I cannot think of another game that can pull that off. Like, I've played thousands of games. I do not know another game that can entertain the 5-year-old at the same level it can entertain someone who has been playing for over a decade. Like,
you know, I agree with you 100%. And at the same time, I don't think I would have expected that to be your favorite game. It's like I'm kind of surprised. And when you explain it, I'm like, but it makes sense. And the ramping, I have a point on the ramping because it makes me think of my son's life. Like, he started playing Multicraft, which is what you get on Mac for free. It's the same thing as Minecraft. It's just not as cool, maybe. And he even ramped up through the different types of games. But it's like when he was 5 or 6, I forgot when he started, it just makes sense because it's moving along with his development stages, right? His abilities, his fine motor skills, and it's just staying relevant with him. And I feel like I'm pushing him into it because there's this sense of design with Minecraft that's easy to latch onto as a parent, I think.
I mean, it like they use it as an educational tool in Sweden.
They do.
And I mean, we have Minecraft education here in the States. Like, it is a sound enough design that can be used to teach kids computer science.
They know the difference, though.
Yeah.
They smell it.
Yeah.
Like, wait, this is education.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Fair point.
Like,
it's there, and it works.
It has a draw. Like, I can't give my kids a math worksheet and say, hey, you guys, this is like, although they can smell the difference, they'll still eat it. It's like, I know this is broccoli, but because you've put cheese on it, I'll still eat it. Whereas if I just give them straight up uncooked broccoli, they're not going to eat it. I can't give them a math worksheet and say, do this math worksheet. But I can give them Minecraft and say, it's Minecraft, but you're learning. And they can swallow that pill.
Yeah. I feel like you're learning on both of them, but yeah,
I mean, you are. The question is just, are you enjoying the learning?
Yeah. Which is the whole question. And I think it's the point of the whole podcast.
It is.
How can we have enriching learning experiences that are also enjoyable?
Yeah. How do we talk about the products we use, the way that we learn, in the same way that we just talked about Minecraft?
Right.
That's it, right?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So with that in mind, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have?
No, this has been a fantastic conversation.
So how can people reach out to you, Bret?
So the best way, like, if you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, LinkedIn is kind of just my platform of choice. Like, I know it's not social media, but like I've dropped off of X. Facebook is for my family. Like, LinkedIn is kind of where I give updates on what I'm doing, like where I'm talking, what I'm doing. If you want more content, like if you want to hear more about games, if you want to learn about design, YouTube is where I've kind of started to ramp that up. Like, it's in its infancy, but I do have a YouTube channel where we talk about Minecraft, we talk about other games, we break down these design elements.
I really appreciate the time. Fantastic conversation. And I just thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
This has been great. I love it. This is a fantastic, like, I'm up for talking about games anytime you want.
Cool. Well, I'll definitely have you back on the show, especially my kids are a little bit older. I need some more ideas on some new co-op games.
Do it.
But thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of
Game Layer.
This is David Kolmer reminding you to stay present and never postpone joy. You can find transcripts of the show at GAMELAYER.fm. GAMELAYER.fm. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Thanks for listening. Now go. Play.
I play chess.
I play Scrabble.
I play fauteuil. I play everything.
Hide and seek with my kids.
I play the piano.
I play board games.
I play guitar.
I smash it on the pitch.
I play chess.
I play Othello.
I play all the Marios.
I play Success Strategist.
I play Street Fighter.
Final Fantasy.
I play games of my own invention. Games of my own invention. Games of my own invention. Games of my own invention.
There are many ways to play. Going for a walk together, doing nothing together is also playing. Anything that can cultivate your feeling of joy, relaxation, where you feel more recharged after doing that thing. And I think you can consider as something that we play with. I'd like to move to the domain of play